Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another one of our Tring Book Festival evenings. Can I welcome to the stage our host for tonight, Alice Adams.
Evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I've gone straight in to take a seat because we are not mic'd up this evening. We have brand new mics. So I want to make sure that you can hear me. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming along tonight. Our guest tonight is probably best known to you all from the hit TV show Strictly Come Dancing, which she joined as a professional dancer in 2013. She went through 8 fantastic seasons with brilliant celebrities. My personal favourite was the epic salsa she did with EastEnders' Jake Wood. I don't know if any of you remember, like him bobbing her head. It was incredible. Anyway, and she reached the final in 2020 with singer Harvey. Again, absolutely amazing season. And she took on a new challenge in 2021. And so a lot of you may know her from presenting BBC Two Strictly It Takes Two, chatting to the dancers, interviewing the dancers as well. And now she's brought all that kind of joy and positivity that you will have seen from her on screen to her new book, her first book, Tiny Dancer, Big World, which I have a copy of here. Which it's really uplifting and got some really practical tips, advice and inspiration and life lessons that she's brought from her time on stage and on screen. And that's complemented by some really beautiful personal stories, poignant stories from her own life as well, which I knew nothing about. It was really interesting to read. So without further ado, please welcome Strictly star and presenter of It Takes Two, the brilliant Janette Manrara.
What an intro, is that me?
Hello everyone.
Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Absolutely delighted that you're here. So I should say that Janette and I will be chatting for kind of 30-40 minutes. But we would love to hear from you as well. So if you have any questions, there'll be an opportunity to ask those later on. And that applies to any one of you that are watching online as well. You'll be able to message Ben and he'll be in touch with you, and we'll take as many of your questions as we've got time for. Anything. Oh, you're going to regret that.
I won't.
So yeah, we're really delighted to have you here at our annual book festival, which happens every November. And November, so far, apart from today, it's been quite a kind of dreary, miserable month. But I know that for you, you'd love November because it's a special month for you.
Yes, I actually was about to name one of the chapters in the book November. That was going to be the name of the chapter. Because it's my birthday on Saturday. And I find November for me, because it is my birthday month, feels like a month of a lot of reflection and, you know, gratitude, a lot of just kind of grounding myself back to, oh, this is where I've come from, this is where I was, this is where I am now, I look forward to the future. So November is a very magical, spiritual month for me. I feel like I take every day, even the dreary ones, with like lots of joy and hope in my heart, yeah.
That joy and that gratitude, like really comes across in the book, and it's so clear that you get a lot of joy and reward from, you know, helping people, coaching people, seeing people achieve something that they just would never have thought possible.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it in our little quiet room there before we came out. Amongst my friends, I'm kind of the mom friend. All my friends come to me for advice, or when they've been naughty and they go, I know, I shouldn't have done that. So I've always had a nurturing aspect about myself. And I think being the eldest as well, I was always kind of a mom to my brother and my sister. I now feel like I'm a mom to my mom. So I have always had a very kind of empathetic and nurturing nature And when I got onto Strictly Come Dancing, that just went tenfold, because obviously to see a very vulnerable, nervous celebrity come into the show or even come into a new week on a Monday and then deliver what they would do on a Saturday, it was just for me so rewarding. Also, even other celebrities that I wasn't dancing with, it's probably why I never won the show, because I was cheering everybody on. But I do love genuinely helping people in any way possible, whether that's through entertainment and escapism, or now through, my lessons learned through the well-being courses that I've taken.
I think that really comes across is that when doing Strictly, obviously you're teaching the choreography, but what you're teaching is so much more than that. And this, I guess a lot of what you get across in the book is it's teaching approaches and a mindset and inspiring people to things, to apply that to any challenge almost.
Yeah, I think what I wouldn't want anybody to assume from the book is that it's just an autobiography on my life and, this is how I did it and this is how I made it. The book to me feels very much like a conversation between myself and the reader. And there's a certain little moment in each chapter called Take a Moment, where I ask the reader to take a moment and really reflect on something in their own life. That is what I'm talking about in that specific chapter. So I wouldn't want to call it too much of a self-help book, because, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm kind of opening and being vulnerable and sharing a lot of my own insecurities, a lot of my own hardships throughout my life, and how asking you to share in your own stories with yourself as you take a moment every time you read through the book. But yeah, it's I feel like this book is much more than just me sharing my life. It's a lot about helping the reader, do something with their own that they might want to achieve.
Yeah, it seemed really relevant, and even it was like it's a really good balance between giving advice but also showing how you applied that and the actions that you're taking. So talking about your own experiences and your own actions, and something that was new to me was I didn't really know much about your background before Strictly, so I was really interested in your decision.
Did that exist before Strictly?
I don't know. Just kidding. It doesn't exist outside school. So that was really interesting, like your decision as an adult to go into that career, but then how you made that happen.
Yeah. Well, I remember my first year on Strictly in 2013, I turned 30, which is not like, I wasn't a 20-year-old starting my life, and making big decisions in my early teens or early 20s. I was turning 30 and I was already an adult and I was already a woman. And that was my first year on Strictly. So I feel like now that I turned 40 recently, that this book was about kind of telling you, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter the background or the hardships you've gone through. If there is something that you want to achieve, it's not impossible. You just need to have the right kind of tools in place, set up the right habits, and make those small changes towards the big change that you want in your life every single day. And that comes a lot throughout the book. It's kind of mentioned through every single chapter that small habits can give you really big results down the line.
And that taking certain actions that maybe they may not seem relevant, but if you're curious about them or you're interested in them, actually they might become useful later on.
Yeah. And it's, I think it's important to just kind of not be afraid. And that's the first thing we talk about in the book. I say we because it's a conversation. It's the first thing we talk about in the book. It's about not being afraid to look within, not being afraid to really, who am I? What makes me me? What are the things that I'm passionate about? What things that I'm not so passionate about? What are the things that are my quirks that makes me slightly different from the person next to me? What are the bad things about me? Because we're made of all of it. The good, the ugly, the bad, the pretty, all of it make us who we are. And it's a beautiful complexity of things that make us human beings. And so this book is about not being afraid to go in, discover that part of yourself, and then work towards those things that you want to change or things that you want to bring more out of your life. Or, if you want to have more empathy to yourself, that's going to create more empathy towards others, more kindness in the world. But it all stems from you, that really going in. And the title, Tiny Dancer, Big World, is not really about me. Tiny Dancer, Big World I actually argued about it with the publisher. They didn't really want it at first. And I said, no, we must do it. Let me explain. Because tiny dancer to me is the reader. You are the tiny dancer that is in a big world, not just around you, but a big world of emotions and feelings that exist within you. So the tiny dancer in all of us is exploring this rhythmical journey that exists within and on the outside world. And that's what that title really is. Obviously, I play on the fact that I am a tiny dancer. That's why it's there. But it's more than me in that title. It's about the reader as well.
Yeah. And it's, like you say, it's kind of getting to know yourself and your strengths and your weaknesses and how you can use them. But also kind of how you go from there to building up resilience and to thinking, how do you deal with things? Because I know that certainly your journey wasn't necessarily, people weren't saying yes to you at every single stage, but you somehow, how did you find the resilience to bounce back? Because I know that, before you were on Strictly, there was another dance competition that you were involved in.
Yeah. So You Think You Can Dance? It was big in the USA, and I think they had 2 series here in the UK as well. But I made it all the way to the final round of season 4 in the USA. And then right at the end, on camera, they told me no. And I was like, oh, disappointed. But also I was older. Not older, but for a dancer, I was 23. And I was going to be competing against 18-year-olds, in the competition. So I thought, oh my gosh, if I don't get So You Think You Can Dance, I can pretty much say goodbye to a dance career. I was working at a bank at the time, so I worked in a bank for 6 years. I have an Associate of Arts degree in finance. Who would have thought? Not useful for dancing, great for the accounts in the house. So I thought, if I don't get this job, if So You Think doesn't happen, I'm going to just be a banker. I was okay with that to a certain extent, but my passion and my life, my breath was to perform. And I thought, if this doesn't happen, that's everything out the window. So when it didn't happen in season 4, I was pretty much ready to give up. And I thought, in what world can I at 23 years old start a dance career? That's just not possible. And so they came back for season 5 and they asked me to re-audition again. And I remember being very hesitant because it was hard. It was hard to accept that no. It was hard to, have that feeling like you're not good enough. I was too short, or I was too Latina, or I didn't have enough ballet training, or I didn't have enough jazz training, or I didn't have enough ballroom and Latin training. I was never enough of anything. And it made me feel that no just made me feel like all those not enoughs were real. I thought, well, that's the proof is in the, how do you say proof is in the pudding? Is that the saying? I thought, so I'm not, I pretty much almost gave up dancing. But then there was something, I don't know, there was a little voice in the back of my head. I can't really explain it. And I call it hope. That was just saying, but keep dancing, keep going to your dance classes. It was an impossible schedule because I was working 9 to 5 at a bank, Monday through Friday. I was going to university 3 or 4 times in the evenings, and then I was dancing every other hour that I possibly could, and all day on Saturday. So I literally woke up at 5:30, 6 in the morning, and I didn't stop till 10 p.m. every single day for 6 years of my life, basically. I had no social life. But my social life was dancing. My way to release anything was through dance. But when they came back and they said, you should audition again, I was so nervous to say yes to doing it. And I was adamant, no, they're using me for a gimmick for telly. Oh, there she is again. They're going to put me on the telly again, and they're going to say no again for effect. And so I didn't want to do it. And my parents and my dance teacher and my friends were the ones that kind of gave me that whole, well, what's the worst that can happen? It's no, but you're prepared for that now. It's happened already once. So if it happens again, it is what it is. But at least you've given it another shot. What if this time it's a yes? And I remember going into the audition going, watch, it's going to be a no. Oh, I got through the first round. Okay, sure, yeah. Second round, third round, fourth round, I'm back in the final. And all these triggering feelings came back. And I thought, if this is another no, I don't know how I'm gonna cope, because it was scary. But then at the same time, I thought, if it's another no, you're prepared for it. You've got a beautiful job in the bank, and you can dance for fun. and then it was a yes, and I got on So You Think, and then So You Think took me across the USA, and I got pretty far in the competition. I got to top 8, which is top 4 girls. I was the shock elimination. Funny that, twice in my career, Aston, and then as well. But it kind of really solidified that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I remember finishing So You Think on the tour. I saved up all the money that I made from the tour. Financial brain. And yeah, spreadsheets were in order. And my bank job was still there. My boss called me from the bank. She's like, we loved you on the show. We voted for you every week. Just so you know, your position's there. Because I started working as a processor for loans. I know all about mortgages. So not a great time for mortgages right now. Anyway, so I started as a loan processor, and then I moved all the way up to being the assistant manager for the National Loan Servicing Department of Northern Trust Bank in the US. So she's got a brain, yeah. But I had a great job, and I had benefits, retirement, all the things that come with that stability that a job at a bank offers you, and a degree in it as well. Not a bachelor's degree. I was close to doing my bachelor's, but then So You Think happened, so I didn't. But that was the big decision. That was the one. Do I go back to my job that is safe, it's there, and I'm gonna have it every single day, and I'll be fine, and say, I've done my dance thing. I'm 24 now, put it to bed, be realistic, and go back. But my parents, again, I think because they were Cuban immigrants, and they left a world of communism in Cuba where, really your dreams don't necessarily come true, or it's much, much harder for them to come true in that kind of a government. And they came to the USA with big aspirations and big dreams and the ability to kind of, anything is possible. So they said to me, if you want to dance, if you want to perform, don't let anything stop you from trying to do that. Because we're in a world, we're in a place where you can try at least. And you will never forgive yourself if you didn't try. And so I moved to LA, listened to their advice, moved to LA, and I started my professional dance career. Still thinking, I let go of that retirement plan. Was that a good idea on insurance? But and it was amazing. It was amazing because I was doing every single day what I loved and what made me the happiest in the world. But with that then came the next layer of things. Stop me, I can talk for hours. Oh, okay. But with that came the next layer of things. And I'm only talking about it because I think it's something that a lot of us can relate to in life. I went then to work as a dancer where I didn't have a steady paycheck. I didn't have life insurance or medical insurance or anything to cover me. I didn't have a retirement plan or anything. And my bank account, when you are a working dancer in Los Angeles, you're just auditioning, and no work is coming in. And I just kept seeing the bank account dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. I did do Glee. Did you watch Glee? So I was on Glee, and I was in the Oscars with Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin. Very cool. But that's the one-off thing, that doesn't pay the bills consistently. So it was scary because I got to a point where I didn't know how I was going to pay rent, how I was going to pay for my food. I was prepared to have to go back into my parents' house and kind of let the dream go because nothing was happening. And my mother, God, talk a lot about my parents. She stepped in again though, and she said, look, I think you need to trust the process. Sometimes you're gonna hit a bit of a tough rock bottom, but if you just keep working at it, keep persevering, something good will come, something will happen. And I listened to her and I didn't give up. I kept auditioning, kept going to my dance classes, kept eating very, very cheap food to just survive. Noodle soup was my best friend, cup of noodles for a while there, and McDonald's. But then I got an offer to audition for Burn the Floor. And Burn the Floor is I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a Broadway show that's all about ballroom and Latin dancing, and it came to the West End. And they asked me to audition, and I had to fly to New York City for the audition. And, it went all right. They looked at me and they were like, we just don't know what to do with you. We know we like you, but we don't know what to do with you. And then Robbie Kematoni, I call him my soulmate. He's like my gay brother. And I do that because we're the same height. We're literally the same person. And he got offered a job on Burn the Floor, and the producers of the show went, we can put them together. So Robbie and I came to the West End here in London to do my first ever show with Burn the Floor here in the West End at the Shaftesbury Theatre. And that was the first time I ever left the United States to go anywhere. I was 24. I needed for more than maybe 2 hours, or 3, or maybe like within the US. So I landed in London like, bam, big-eyed, new world, new place, new job, consistent salary. My God, I feel like I hit the jackpot because I was doing what I loved, being paid to do it, in a new place, in a new country, meeting new people with different backgrounds, different cultures. I was literally living the dream when I joined Burn the Floor. And that was, Burn the Floor was the moment that I really felt like a professional dancer, because I was on stage in a theater doing 8 shows a week in the West End. It was so special. It was amazing. Yeah.
And I just found it incredible that you had that really, reliable, secure, well-paid backup, but you still had the determination and the drive and the encouragement from your parents to say, you know what, don't necessarily take the easy, straightforward route. Go for it.
It's scary. I think a lot of us might want to do something, but we just don't take that first step towards it because of fear of rejection or fear of failure. There's a whole chapter on failure in the book, and how we love failure and we need to become friends with failure, because failure really is only lessons if you think about it. When you fail at something, it's just, it didn't work out, so you try again, or you do something else and that leads you to the next thing. And if we just change our perspective of what failure actually means or is in our lives and the results that failure can give us, I think you would appreciate it to a totally different level. And I think I learned that the hard way, Now I'm not afraid to make mistakes. Now if I muck it up, I'm like, all right, cool. Didn't work that time. I'll try again the next time. But that takes time to kind of trust in making mistakes and not being afraid to make mistakes.
Have the confidence, and also to have people around you to go, it's okay, you made a mistake, we'll learn from it. Exactly. We can move on.
I think the people we surround ourselves with is crucial. Whether that's, for me, it was my family, but friends, co-workers, really pay attention to the people that you surround yourself with, because they really are the ones that can either inspire you to do great things or really lock you up to not do great things.
Yeah, sometimes you don't always realise, you're not always tuned into the energy or the comments that you get from the people around you, and sometimes you might need to think about, okay, is that person bringing me up, or is that person making me feel better, or are they making me feel worse? And I think we can choose to do that like on a personal level, but one of the things that comes across in the book is that particularly is kind of social media, and as a celebrity you're kind of expected to have a presence on social media, and that opens you up to a lot of positivity, but it doesn't just allow your immediate circle to comment. Anyone can say anything they want about you, and they will. How do you manage that?
Well, I'm still figuring it out. No, I think, I find social media a complicated thing, but I've also learned to understand how to maneuver it. The way that I see social media is that it can be actually a very, very good thing, because take COVID, for example, when we had no way to talk to anybody or no way to communicate, I feel like I created a whole little tribe of friends and people in my social media. We'd get together and we'd do party ballet on the Fridays, or Aliash and I would do our dance lessons, or I do talks with Janette on my Instagram. And I found human connection through social media in a time where there was just absolutely none. So social media, if used in the right way, is a beautiful thing. And I talk about how you need to be mindful of what your social media account can do for you. So I've done what I call a social media cleanse. I only really follow accounts, either family and friends, or people that I genuinely feel inspired by. You have to really pay attention to the accounts that you follow, that when you go to them, take away your joy or make you feel a bit like, ugh, I'm not good enough, or like, look at the car they're driving, or look at the house that they've bought in, or look at the holiday they've just gone on. And you just create more and more envy and frustration for your own life because of what you're seeing is on your socials. Whereas if you kind of, okay, I'm gonna follow the people that post good things, post about inspirational things, quotes, or even if it is something happy, like I post about my daughter all the time. But like for me, that hopefully like is a sharing process more than like a show-off process. Does that make sense? So really kind of paying attention to because when you start scrolling, if you control the accounts that you follow, that means that you're automatically controlling what your brain sees when you go into automatic mode. Then you don't have to worry about it, because then that means that every time that you're scrolling, you're only putting into your mind and into your heart good things, or family, or friends, or quotes, or in accounts that teach you something, or if there is a celebrity that you love and adore, but it's not a celebrity that every time you go to them kind of makes you feel like crap when you see what they're doing. So just being conscious of that, and not being afraid to unfollow the people that just don't serve you in a positive way. I think it's important to navigate it in that way, because then you're doing social media with a lot of mindfulness, and not just, resentment that you don't have that beautiful new pair of shoes, although I do love shoes, but.
That makes sense. And it was interesting. I just kind of assumed, because I didn't know much about your background before Strictly, I just assumed. Oh yeah, I forgot you weren't there. That I just kind of assumed that all this professional dancers had been like ballroom dancers since they were children, and it was like an epiphany, like, oh, they're not all professional ballroom dancers. And how did that feel coming in to join that what looks like a really lovely, positive, tight-knit community? But I guess a lot of them have come up through ballroom dancing since they were children. You were kind of coming in from a different angle.
Different perspective.
Yeah.
I felt like the guinea pig. I was like, oh, they're testing something on me. Because they obviously knew that I never competed in ballroom and Latin, but that I could dance ballroom and Latin, obviously because of Burn the Floor. Burn the Floor is a ballroom and Latin show. But I had more of a musical theater and television background. That's more what I did. I did musical theater as a kid, and I had been working in telly since I was 12 years old, doing a TV show called Sábado Gigante, which translated means Giant Saturday. It was like a Saturday night. Basically, I've been doing Saturday night telly since I was 12. But the producers knew, and I think at the time they kind of wanted fresh blood. They wanted to try something different and switch. They had a brand new executive producer. Her name was Louise Rainbow. So I think they wanted at that time to just really freshen up and change the show. So I remember when they came to watch us on Burn the Floor, the show that I was doing at the West End. I was really hoping Ali Ash would get the job, because Ali Ash and I were dating already at that time, and I thought, oh, this would be amazing if you get it, good luck, fingers crossed, never assuming they'd ever care to look at me, because I didn't compete in ballroom and Latin. So when they called me and they said, we'd like you to come in and teach a celebrity how to dance, and we'll film you, and it's like an audition, you have to teach someone how to dance. I was like, okay. So I over-prepared to teach a man, assuming, how to dance, and I came in ready with the man steps clear in my brain, and then I walked in and it was a woman. And I was like, well, I'm just going to teach her how I would do it then. So I started, and it went really well, to the point that then Ali Ash and I both got that phone call to join Strictly, and my mind was blown, because I thought, are they sure they know what they're doing? Because they're bringing me, they knew we were dating. I think they like that. And yeah, we both got the job. I was blown away. I didn't expect it. And I cried, I screamed. And there's a lot of talk on the press of the Strictly curse, But for us, we always say that Strictly's been the Strictly blessing, because Ali Ash and I were already dating, but he was living in Slovenia and I was living in Los Angeles. And our Burn the Floor contract was about to end, which meant he was going to go back to Slovenia and I was going to go back to Los Angeles. And we were going to try and have to do the long distance thing, and I was nervous about it, because that is tough time difference to deal with. So I thought, if he gets Strictly, then maybe I can come to London and stay with him a little bit and then go back and forth. It's a bit easier than, but anyway, so when we both got it, it kind of saved our relationship. So we were able to both stay together, move to London together. And then during Strictly, we got engaged, we got married, now we've become parents. So Strictly for us has been like, it saved our lives, really. It allowed us to be together. But along all that joy and happiness came this huge sense of imposter, because I'm in the midst of all these professional champions, because I'm a professional dancer, but these were professional champions of ballroom and Latin. They have titles from all over the world. And here I was in the midst of them trying to I was literally thrown in the deep end. And I kind of, at the time, didn't realize how much of an effect, only in hindsight did I realize how much I suppressed and kept inside. Because I just put on, I'm sure we all do it at one point, or you put on your show face, you just get on with it and you don't really tell people what's happening on the inside. But I was walking into teaching my celebrity or walking into the pro dances petrified, because I just didn't think I belonged there. I didn't think I deserved to be there. And there was always the online comments of people that knew that I wasn't a professional and I didn't have titles, or she doesn't know what she's doing, she's never gonna survive, or let's see how this week goes, oh, there she is again, and you're like, oh, wow, you just start, all those insecurities and natural self-doubts that we all have starts really kicking in, especially when you put it on a public scale like Strictly, where you are just like, it's there for all to see. And then you add on top of that the fact that I can laugh about it now, it wasn't funny then, but we joined the show, Ali Ash and I together. He goes on to win it with Abby Clancy, and I'm in the bottom every week for 4 weeks with Julia McDonald. Oh my God, 1,000 crystals, Janette. And I just, I was really struggling because I felt like an imposter, but I also couldn't voice it because I didn't want to take away from Ali Ash's joy and Ali Ash's excitement from, doing so well in the show, but literally being side by side, doing everything together and having such different reactions. He was like the poster boy, the sexy new Slovenian on Strictly, and I was like, oh, she did her best, didn't she? It was a totally different thing. So it was really tough. It was really tough. And then when we finished the series, Ali Ash got offered to do the tour, the Strictly Live tour with Abby. I didn't, poor Julian and I, we weren't going to go on tour, were we? So I was alone in a new country with very few friends, feeling like an imposter, feeling like a failure, and feeling like a failure on a massive scale in a public domain for everybody to see. And I couldn't talk about it because I thought if I talk about it, it's too vulnerable. I feel like if the Janette that I am now would have definitely talked about it then. But then I was trying to just put on a brave face and get by. Little did I know that talking about it would have only just made me cope with it and get past it much faster than the way that I did. But it was really, really tough. And it took until the next year when I got partnered with Jake Wood, your favorite, your salsa. And I came into that year with a different, I forced myself to try not to pay attention to the noise of the negativity. Remember, I am there for a reason. They hired me for a reason. I remembered the time that I wasn't taken on So You Think You Can Dance, and then I was on So You Think You Can Dance, and everything that I thought about me was not good, my height or my Latina aspect or my little bit of a twangy accent, all those things ended up being the things that So You Think loved about me. And I remembered that journey, and I thought, I'm in a similar space now. Don't dim your light down because of the noise. You are worthy of being here. You deserve to be here. Remember your strengths. You have weaknesses, but so does everybody else. None of us are perfect. Just push on your strengths and work on your weaknesses. And that's it. Just be a little bit better the next day than you were yesterday. And I think that mentality and being partnered with Jake Wood, who could dance, bless him, he could wiggle, couldn't he? Gave me my confidence back. We got all the way to the semifinal. We delivered that salsa. And even though we didn't win, it didn't matter. I felt like I won because I got myself back a little bit. And that year made me feel like Janette once again, a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I'm just picturing the salsa.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back home and watch it again.
About the salsa?
Yes.
I do this lift. I don't know if you've seen it, guys, but I'm in a straddle split over his head, and he's holding me like that. And then I rolled down through his legs at the end. Anyway, when I was teaching it to him, I said, right, Jake, there's a couple things you need to remember. Number one, don't stop. Just go all the way down. If you stop halfway through, you're going to cut my legs, and it's not going to work. And I go, also, make sure you throw your head back so I can swing through the bottom of your legs. And he goes, all right, cool. Because he's so Max Browning in real life sometimes. And so he goes, boom, gets me up. And I'm like, great, smashed it, first go. Then I go, all right, I'm up there and I'm literally holding my legs and I'm going, don't forget now, go all the way down, and throw your head back. What does he do? He literally stops halfway through, doesn't throw his head back. So I'm in a straddle split with everything there. And he just goes, I see what you mean. And I was like, this is not a time to talk, Jake. Put me down. Put me down. We broke the ice very quickly because that was the second week we did that together. Oh my God, but he was brilliant, you know, and we're still such good friends. Every time my parents come over, we have a little catch up with him over dinner or something. We try and make time to see each other. I've been really fortunate with all my Strictly partners. They're all still really good friends of mine.
I feel like that's not a coincidence because you're so lovely and warm to people and you just share so much joy, like in the book, but like in person, you know, it's really lovely. And Strictly just seems like, I know you talk about community in the book and how important it is, and the Strictly community seems so lovely. It must be, does it feel quite kind of interesting, like since you've made the move to presenting It Takes Two, seeing it from a different angle? That must be interesting.
I mean, I've always wanted to present. I don't know why. I studied TV production in high school. So I used to do in my high school the morning announcements. So every classroom would have a little telly. And for 10 minutes in the morning, the students that were studying TV production would put on like a morning TV show. And I was the one, good morning. And I thought, oh, I could see this in my future someday. And hence Morning Live. But I've always loved TV production and I've always loved television in general and theater. The two, I feel like really are a part of me in some shape or form. And so when I joined Strictly, I don't know if it's that financial brain or the pragmatic nature that I have of just like, you know, let's stick to a plan, that I got onto Strictly and I immediately from year one that I joined Strictly got, ooh, this is a great opportunity, but this can't be forever. So what is this going to springboard me to next in my life? And I remember thinking, if I can't be dancing on telly, I'd love to still be entertaining through presenting or hosting or doing something of that nature. Because you can't dance to an elite level forever. You can only do that. You know, it's like an athlete. You've got a certain peak of your career. I'm still dancing, but I don't think I'm dancing the same way I was dancing when I was in my 20s. It's not possible. After a child especially, it's a different thing. But so I always had this thing in my mind that I wanted to present. So I was doing YouTube videos and I would watch myself back. I would script my own questions, produce and edit my own videos. So I was doing the YouTube thing before YouTube was a thing. If you want some fun entertainment, go and watch some of my YouTube videos from 2013. They're not great. But I was learning about how to interview, how to present, you know, learning what kind of questions were the right kinds of questions for different things. So I'd interview wardrobe, I'd interview a judge, I'd interview an athlete, I'd interview an actor, I'd interview a fellow professional. And then, so I was kind of always grafting away quietly at my kind of presenting skills. So when presenting came along, Morning Live was the first one that gave me the opportunity. I had mentioned way before Morning Live was even a TV show, when I danced with Dr. Ranj. He is best friends with a woman named Emma Morris, who is now the executive producer of Morning Live. But she at the time had just become a mother, wasn't working, and was just Ranj's best friend. And she had worked in television, but not as an executive producer. She was just working in telly. She gave it up and then focused on her children. Then after her kids got big enough, she decided she wanted to go back into telly. BBC offered her to be the exec on Morning Live when it was just a baby. It kind of started during COVID and they didn't know where it was going to go, what was going to happen with it. They needed a last minute person to step in for a slot. And she thought, I remember Janette telling me that she wanted to do this. Let me give her a shot and let's see what happens.
Seen some of your YouTube stuff?
She knew,
yeah,
because we'd spoken about it, but honestly, I spoke to her about it, she wasn't working in it at the time, so it was just through friendship, through Ranj. So to speak your truths, and manifest the things and talk about the things you want to do, because you never know where that conversation could take you someday. And then she was the one that gave me that first chance to go on telly with Gethin Jones, who loves to boss me around. And I love him and want to punch him all at the same time.
good TV.
Yeah, we do. We're like quite the double act when we host together, but in the best way. But honestly, he comes up in the book. because he really took me under his wing and kind of taught me what it takes to be a great presenter, like all the ins and outs of television. I remember you have these things called in-ears when you're on telly, and it's somebody's talking in your ear while you are interviewing and talking, and you can have it in what they call open mode, which is you hear the director, the camera guys, the woman counting down, you hear everything, or switch, which means your button is turned off unless somebody needs to speak to you directly. And I didn't know the difference. So I came in to host the first show, and they said, do you want switch or open? And I go, open. And I did the whole show with 20 voices going on at my ear at the same time. But I did it, and Gethin was like, you did great. So were you on switch? And I was like, no, I think I was open. He goes, you did that open? First time presenting, thrown in the deep end with an open. But that made me a good presenter then, because I went in the hard way. And now I'm on, when I host with Gethin or anybody, I'm always on open. Because I like to hear, it's good for me to hear what's happening. But you do have to split your minds in two, because you have to be focused on the chat and also really, okay, there's a count, okay, they're changing the camera, oh, that person's not going to be late, we need to ask them the question. Like, it's really thinking twos. But Gethin, again, he was like my mentor and really kind of showed me the ways. And Emma, I owe so much to Emma, because she really kind of gave me that first chance. There's a quote that comes up in the book called, that says, opportunity plus preparation equals success. You need a bit of luck. You need a bit of luck in life. And I think you also create your luck by preparing as much as possible and doing as much as possible. The combination of the two things creates success. You can sit and dream forever, but that's just a dream unless you start working at it and doing the things and creating the opportunities and creating the luck for it to happen someday. And I think that's kind of what I did without knowing it really, throughout the years with all my YouTube videos and Instagrams and like all that jazz. And now, funny enough, getting into the world of presenting, I felt imposter syndrome coming in again, because now I'm entering the realm of presenting. This is a whole other bandwagon. You know, it's not about me, it's about the guest, it's about the show, it's about the topic that we're discussing. I think my empathetic nature helps for that, but you know, it's a whole other craft to present. And I think a lot of people assume presenting is easy, but it's not. It's to be a good presenter, it takes work, and it takes a lot of human understanding and like awareness of everything else that's happening as well, because it's a team, really. You're the face of it, but it's a team of people that are producing everything that's happening in that chat. And I think because I had done the work that comes up in the book, and I've done the well-being courses, and I learned a lot about my failure and my imposter and my fears and my insecurities and my self-doubt, I was able to come now into the presenting world a little bit kinder to myself. When I made the mistakes, when I didn't get it right, when I mucked it up here and there, I was kind of more okay with it than I was in the past with my mistakes and my failures. But I think that leads to quicker success, because now I'm seeing things as lessons instead of necessarily, you didn't do a good job.
No, absolutely, and it really comes across in the book, that kind of positive mindset, and it's not necessarily what happens, but it's how you respond to it and how you use it. And as you say, great things have happened, and partly, yeah, it's opportunity, but a lot of it is, you know, knocking away at it a little bit at a time, hard work, looking at opportunities, diversifying the skills that you have. And yeah, it's amazing to see what you've achieved. I mean, yeah, it's been so lovely to talk to you, and I've got so many more questions I could ask, but I am conscious that Ben is standing up. So, of questions that they would love to ask as well. Ben, are you happy to?
Yeah, let's do a few on the floor then, because already some come in online.
Hi, Janette. Hi. Thanks, that was really interesting. It strikes me you're an absolutely natural presenter, like from the first time you're on Strictly It Takes Two, you're just absolute natural at it.
Thank you.
And you're right, I haven't done it, but it is really difficult. I think good people make anything look easy, and it's really difficult. I was just wondering, is there any parts of your brain and your training that you could use for dancing that you could apply into presenting, like timing and stuff?
Ooh, well, definitely when they start going 8, 7, 6, 5, I'm going 4, 3, 2, 1, show. I think being quick on your feet, quite literally, because live television, anything can happen. You know, a guest cannot show up on the day, which has happened, or you're doing a Zoom call with somebody live on air and the Zoom drops and you've got to be ready. And I think when you're a dancer, you are prepared for mistakes, especially when you dance in theater. Every show feels like a different show when you do theater, because it's a different connection with the audience, different space, different feeling, different stages. So I think being able to be adaptable and flexible with the space in your environment is important for presenting just as much as it is for dancing. I remember there was just a quick one. I was presenting a segment on Morning Live. I wasn't hosting at the time. I was doing like a on the spots thing. It was torrential rain and wind, and there was a choir of like 80 people, all of us outside. And I just said to them, just go, just go, I'll make it work. And that kind of mentality to just make it work, I think really helps on the presenting side as well. Yeah. Oh, you're gonna get your steps in, Ben.
As a teacher of languages, I'm a huge advocate of children and young people, but in particular, learning to speak another language. So now you're a mummy, and obviously Aliash speaks Slovenian. Are you bringing up your beautiful baby girl to speak Spanish and Slovenian?
Yes, we really want her to be trilingual. How crazy is that? At the moment, we're doing mostly English and Slovenian, only because Aliash's family doesn't speak English, so we want her to be able to communicate with them when she goes to visit in Slovenia. I did read, and maybe you can correct me on this, but I read somewhere that children that are born trilingual can sometimes take much longer to start speaking out of fear of communicating. I love that I'm asking you for advice. Like, this has turned into a whole other thing.
Don't ask me about a quick step, though.
Okay, fine.
In my experience, there's no reason why children can't absolutely thrive learning several languages. Lots of them come to us age 11, and they're already fluent in 2 or 3. They speak a different language at home, or they speak a couple of languages at home, and they're already fluent in English as well. So my experience is different. I say go for it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep definitely with the English. And Lyra doesn't stop talking. My God. She loves to read books as well. So she'll sit in bed and talk, like, go blah, 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 blah. She swears she's reading. But I think Spanish, I definitely want to teach her, because Spanish is spoken in so many countries. But priority is Slovenian because of the connection with her grandparents and her cousins. But yeah, I definitely want her. I think, we went just sharing on that sentiment. We were at the airport when we were visiting family recently, and Aliash has a Slovenian passport. I still have my American passport, British one soon. I'm working on my citizenship. And then Lyra has a British passport. And they looked at us at the gate and they were like, can you pick one? But I think the world we're in right now, and the world certainly that Lyra is going to grow into, is a much more international world. I feel like we are becoming citizens of the planet more than citizens of a specific country. So Aliash and I are both adamant that she does kind of channel that. She's Slovenian, she's British, she's Spanish, she's American. I mean, she's got a mix, bless her. But yeah, I think it's an important thing for children to be aware, because I think times are changing so much to be much more international in every way. Yeah.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you so much for sharing your insight as to your career and your life. It's really interesting. As like a professional dancer, what advice would you give to yourself before going into any of your major auditions? Especially, you've spoken a lot about imposter syndrome and trusting the process. And as someone who is about to go into that, and even in people who are going into careers where it's equally as relevant but not maybe so dance specific, what would you go back and say?
Ooh, okay. This is a tough one, because I can tell you everything, but you need to experience it. I think I got told no many, 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 many times. And learning to be okay with being told no or not getting the job is the first step to survival in the world. And you have to not take anything personal, because people will hire you for different reasons. The one thing I learned down the line that I wish I would have learned sooner, and if I could share that with you, hopefully you carry it on with your career, and I honestly wish you the best of luck, keep dancing, quite literally, is that you have to know your strengths, know that you do have something to offer. That's something that makes you special, that makes you wanted, that makes you bookable, and don't be afraid to show that off. Because if you come into an audition trying to fit in with the rest, that's not the job you'll get. You need to come in being 100% you, knowing exactly what your worth is and what you have to offer these people. And then Tice Diorio, a good friend of mine, he's a massive choreographer from the States. He said to me, he would always go into an audition and he would tell himself right before he walked in, "Welcome to my party." And he's like, "You are allowed to watch me dance now. And I've given you the gift of my party to watch me dance in this event." And that, just having that switch of like, they are there watching you, gives you a sense of confidence that you need and you deserve, because obviously if you get to an audition, just even getting to the audition means that there's something about you that's good enough already. So just trust that you've got something to bring to the table and be confident in that. And if you don't get it, don't let it bring you down, because you will be told no a million times, and that's okay, because you only need that one yes to kickstart it for the next thing. Trust me, it was the one yes for me. So just trust it as much as possible. Yeah, good luck. I hope it goes well. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? I'm 23. Girl, we are in sync. You just keep going, it's gonna happen.
Another one online.
I love long walks on the beach, cuddling with Laura.
So Emma, that's a very simple question actually. How much have you enjoyed your time on It Takes Two?
Oh gosh, It Takes Two. I always said if I didn't dance on Strictly, to be doing, hi Emma, wherever she is. If I wasn't doing Strictly Come Dancing, to be hosting It Takes Two, it's just like, I remember coming in the first It Takes Two with Zoe Ball, with Julian and I, to talk about the dance-off. And Zoe was just so warm and kind and excited and loved the show and genuinely cared for Julian and I. And I just remember sitting across the couch from her and going, "You're amazing, like that you're making me feel this way after something so hard." And I thought, if I ever stop dancing, to be doing something like that, I kind of almost in a weird way put it in the universe that I would want to host It Takes Two someday. And I thought, if I'm not doing Strictly, to be hosting It Takes Two would be the next best thing. And I remember the day that Zoe Ball announced that she was leaving, I messaged her straight away. Oh, this is a funny story, Emma. Oh my gosh, this is one of the best stories actually. I messaged Zoe and I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna miss you so much. Like nobody is ever gonna be as good as you." And then she did reply straight away, and then I spoke to my mom and my dad, and I go, "Can you believe Zoe's leaving? My gosh." My father then goes on to say, "Oh, I'm gonna stop watching. No one is ever gonna be Zoe Ball." This is my father. She's like literally the kindest, most beautiful person. Who's gonna be Zoe next? I don't know if I'll watch anymore. And then fast forward to a couple of weeks later, I got the job. And I called my dad. Oh, Zoe Ball messaged me as well, and she was like, "I think it should be you." She messaged me, she said, "I think it should be you," in my heart. And I thought, they'll never take me, but that is so wonderful that you think it should be me. And then when I got the job, I called my dad, and I was like, "Dad, there's a new host for It Takes Two." "Oh, right, who's it gonna be?" And when I said, "It's me," he went, "Oh, I can't wait, I'm gonna watch every episode." Just really funny moment. But I'm so humbled to host It Takes Two. I feel very, very lucky to still be a part of Strictly, to still be a part of the magic of what that show offers. I know I might be biased in saying this, but I think Strictly Come Dancing is one of the best telly shows we've got for many reasons. Not just because of the dancing and the entertainment, but I feel like it's a space where dance is at the forefront. And as a dancer, nothing else exists like it in the world, where dance is what it's all about, really. And then you add on top of that people that are, we've got this year, we were just talking about Chris backstage, blind and dancing and doing what he's doing and changing the mold and opening conversations. It's just, Strictly can do that. Strictly can show people that tenacity and resilience and drive and believing that the impossible is possible. Strictly offers a space for that. And for me to be a part of that program is really, really humbling. And to now be doing It Takes Two, I still pinch myself that this is my job. I come in on a Wednesday or Thursday and I'm like, this is what I do. I sit and talk about dancing. Who am I? But it's the best. It's the best, yeah.
You're absolutely in the right place.
Thank you.
We've still got 5 minutes, actually, so go on, there's questions.
I just wanted to say thank you, because during lockdown, your Friday night dance things were absolutely amazing. And Kim at the back, she was doing them as well with Carl. So they were amazing, and we look forward to Friday night every week. So thank you.
Thank you. You see, but I think that's what was kind of, again, we talked about this backstage a little bit. There was a lot of really awful things that happened during COVID. Really difficult, people lost loved ones, the NHS were overworked to a level that is incomprehensible still. But in the midst of all that darkness and negativity and fear that we were in, it created a space of humanity and showed us how beautiful we are as human beings at coming together and surviving and really being there for one another, whether that be through just a good Friday night dance class and having fun, or delivering food, or clapping for our carers and our NHS every night on a Thursday. That comes up a lot in the book, a sense of the importance of kindness and community and empathy and forgiveness, for us to come together as human beings and stop being judgmental, stop being negative, stop leading with fear, because fear is the cause of being judged, of being scared, of not opening up to possibilities of beautiful things. And I think if there's one big message that I can send you from the book, it would be that if you start by changing yourself to be a better person to you, kinder to yourself, more forgiving to yourself, more understanding of yourself, that is like the little pebble that you throw into a river that creates the waves of change that leads to everybody else. And I think COVID and those Friday night classes is a small little example of just how beautiful human beings can be with each other if we just allowed each other to be that a little bit more. Yeah.
Janette, what was the hook that got you into dancing right at the beginning?
I don't
And
know.
are there any other dancers in your family?
I don't know why you were going to say what was the hook that got you into Aliash. Sorry. I don't know why. I assumed you were going to ask that. What was the hook that got me into dancing? Well, I'm Cuban. My mom and my dad and my grandparents and my aunts and uncles, I feel like I started dancing just as much as I started walking. I did the salsa step just as quickly as I started doing a step. And so the bug of music and rhythms and all that just was it. I think it's in my blood since I was born. My mom was a artistic swimmer, and she won a couple golds in Cuba when she was still swimming. And my dad is a gorgeous singer. He never could sing and never made it as a singer, but he loves to sing and he writes songs. So I think I grew up in a creative, dreamy home where they believe that anything is possible. And dancing was just something that we did for fun, just because. We danced for any reason, for a birthday, for a Valentine's Day, for it's just a pretty day today, for any reason. There was music on and we were dancing and we were moving in our home. And that wasn't just my parents, that was literally, like I said, my whole family. So I think I was destined to dance, if I'm honest. I don't think I had any other choice.
Right, one more, and then I've got a lovely little quote from our audience online.
Right. Janette, do the pros and the celebrities have any say in who they're partnered with on Strictly?
No, but your height does. Because I remember when I was still a pro, I'd look across the board and I'd go, oh, it's you or you. It's definitely not going to be John Walker. It's not going to happen. But no, we don't. We genuinely don't at all. There's a really interesting moment that I used to always be petrified of. You felt like you were being watched constantly, there was 10 cameras in the room, all the producers, and they'd get all the female pros and all the male pros, and then they get the celebrities to go. They put the pros in the middle and the celebrities in the middle and the pros on the outside. And then the pros will go swapping from celebrity to celebrity all the way around, so they eventually danced with every single celebrity. And you could see it was so bad. You could see, not me, I promise not me, I was always the nice one. Some pros, if they really wanted a celebrity, would egg on that little moment with that celebrity. They're like, oh, look at this, we really get along, don't we? And if they didn't want someone, and then of course leave it to me to, there was, bless the celebrities, it's not their fault. So if there was one that I ever felt was getting a bit of that too much, I'd always be like, are you having the best time? You are, right, you are. But no, I think height is number one, and then they just watch and watch and watch to see who connects more with who. Yeah, but I think they get it right. I think they get it right. I'm going to be biased. This is a safe space because It Takes Two hosts, I'm not allowed favorites, but clearly, vote for Ali Ash. No, but I'm not, technically I'm not allowed I'm not even allowed to, I can't. I have to be so good with the guidelines of the BBC presenting, I'll get in so much trouble. But, yeah. But I forgot where I was going with that. No, but it's say again? Yeah, Chris, we've talked about Chris. I mean, he's phenomenal. But Tasha, I think people forget Tasha is deaf, completely deaf. And she was not even hard of hearing. She was not using hearing aids. She's got a cochlear implant. And her contemporary with Ali Ash that they did in Icons Week, I cried my eyes out because the VT and the video and her messaging about how nasty people can be and how awful social media can be and the bullying that exists in our world, and for her to have the strength to showcase that vulnerability and talk about it and not be afraid to show off her cochlear implant and do what she's doing in the same way that Chris is doing it, being blind. Again, it's the beauty of Strictly. It's so wonderful to see that we have the platform on Strictly to tell those stories and do those things.
I'm going to finish with a little quote from Johnny Swanston, who's watching. He's a young lad. I think you're the best dancer in the world. You really inspire me with your quotes on social media.
Oh, thanks, Johnny. Oh, isn't that nice? I don't take compliments very well. I love putting quotes on my socials. Again, if going back to social, we talk a lot about it, but it is about a way of the world now. If people come to my social media, I want them to feel warmth. I want them to feel inspired. I want them to feel human connection. Like I have bad days just as much as you do. I want them to feel joy. When they see videos of me dancing or Lyra being silly, just as a bumblebee. And I think my social space, I always just want it to be a positive one. I never want anybody to come to my account and not feel joy, or at least like, oh, I'm not alone, or a sense of humanity coming from me in some shape or form. So thank you, Johnny.
So lovely, and just you say that, like the joy and the passion that you've got, and the fact that you want to share it with other people and make other people great, just it comes across on TV and it comes across even more in person. So honestly, can't thank you enough. I'm sure everyone will feel the same. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to Alice Adams for interviewing. That's great. Thank you.